welcome to this week's hashtag Toe to Toe. As always, I'm joined by Spencer Fearon and this week, Carl Froch. Carl, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
How have you been?
Not too bad. Nice weather.
Nice weather. Did you enjoy Wimbledon?
I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed it how much I went back the week later for the men's semi-final.
Ah.
And that just dragged on and on. I missed Djokovic Nadal. That didn't finish till 11 o'clock. I got that on the television when I got home. But no, it's always good at Wimbledon. I love tennis there. I love one-on-one sports, tennis, golf. Yeah. You're on your own. Snooker, chess. I had a game of chess with Leanne Lewis.
Did you?
Name dropping now.
Did you win?
No, he's very good. I was high school champion, but I couldn't beat Leanne Lewis.
Does it ever give you the urge to get back in the ring when you go and see all these one-on-one sports?
Absolutely not.
No?
Never.
Don't fancy it?
I never miss it. I realised that how hard it is to get yourself prepared properly for a fight, and I'd never get into the ring.
Yeah.
You never get in there fully 100%. You're always carrying sort of injuries and niggles, but I was always fit, unless there was problems on the lead up. Like the first Kessler fight, I wasn't fit because I took weight off, which I never usually do, but there was a volcanic ash cloud kicking off somewhere in Iceland, so that was the problem with that. But I wouldn't put myself in the position of a boxing match, a 12 3-minute round boxing match, ill-prepared. And when I retired, the desire was gone, the training was hard, elbows, hands, knees, things were injured, so I retired at the right time with a pillar of a right hand. I don't know if you saw it, it was quite local to us.
Yeah?
Quite a lot there as well. 80,000 people there.
Oh, you had to put it in there, didn't you?
Oh, did you know already? But no, for me to sign off on that fight with that point, I just thought that would do me. That's my exit card.
A nice way to end it on. Fully enjoying retirement. Well, we'll get started. Kai Bradley has tweeted in, aside from Klitschko, will Povetkin be AJ's toughest opponent to date? What do we think?
I think stylistically, yes. Sometimes we're looking too much into this fight they had with David Price. David Price is a very big man who can punch. But I think Povetkin kind of underestimated David Price going into that fight. I think a fully fledged, fit, motivated Povetkin will give anybody in the world trouble. He's a very, very sound fighter. And the simple fact that if we look on the records, like we got two common opponents, but the real common opponent to me is how Povetkin stopped Takam, knocked him out. Andy Joshua couldn't, even though he stopped him, but he couldn't knock him out. They have nowhere near seen that the guy was hurt because of kind of debatable stoppage. This is a very, very tough fight for him, and I hope that AJ goes in there 100%, because if he's not, we could actually see an upset.
What do we think Anthony has to focus on in camp this time round, in particular?
I think the major thing is that we didn't see him administer the double jab in the fight that he recently had against Parker, and he's gonna have to double jab against a man who's shorter than him just to position him correctly so he could drop in that right hand and come back with his left hook. A shot that you used to throw regular because they had the same trainer in Rob McCracken, and Rob McCracken likes for you to double that shot.
You know when you double up the jab though?
Yeah.
You're sort of being offensive, so you're trying to jab again and make some ground up to let go of a big right hand. I felt that Joshua in that fight was on his back foot. He was boxing sort of, I don't want to say he was boxing scared, but he was boxing safe.
Reserved.
And he was on his back foot, outboxing Joseph Parker. And he did that for 12 rounds, and that's why some people complain. They say, look, it was a boring fight and whatever, but obviously he ticked all the boxes, got the 12 rounds done, and Rob McCracken would have no complaints. Defended his title in style, picked up another title. It can come again. You know, but that double jab you're talking about, I agree. Yeah. He needs to throw it, but he didn't throw that against Parker because he was just on his back foot too much. He was backing up, jabbing the single jab, looking for the counter, and there's a lot of holding going off as well.
Why do you think he was on his back foot?
I'm not so sure if in his mind he had one eye on going the distance, or if Rob McCracken had told him, look, box and move, use this as an experience, you know, to gain that ring knowledge.
Do you think he's become very wary since the knockdown against Klitschko and getting hurt by Klitschko as well?
Potentially.
You think that could have had something to do with that?
Listen, it's definitely going to have an effect, and you've got the Takam fight as well, which wasn't easy. He got headbutted quite hard early on, and he wasn't struggling, but the stoppage was a little bit debatable. He could have gone on, and like you said there, the similar opponents did a better job against Takam. So this is a fight that's going to be potentially very tough if AJ's not at his best, but he usually turns up on his best, and he usually performs. He does the job, and he's getting better and better every fight. So I thoroughly expect him to do the business against Povetkin.
Well, we shall see. Another box office event that's coming up soon, July 28th. Mark has asked, if Dillian Whyte beats Joseph Parker, should he face Anthony Joshua next year? He is a very different fighter to the man who fought AJ last time.
Yes. I think Dillian Whyte has so vastly improved from... Like, seriously, I remember seeing Dillian Whyte in I'm saying the first Anthony Joshua fight, because I only fought once. Well, they've only fought once as professionals. Dillian Whyte, seriously, I thought you were going to do an advert for Cross Your Heart. Do you know what I mean? But now you look at Dillian Whyte now, he's in condition now, he's focused, he lives this. He's always been a hard trainer, but I don't think he was training correctly. I think now Dillian Whyte is training correctly, and now we're seeing the performances that he's putting in, especially under the tutelage of Mark Tibbs, who I rate as a trainer because he comes from great lineage, from his father being Jimmy Tibbs, who I would say is one of the greatest trainers ever to come out of this country. We're seeing a better and a more reserved Dillian Whyte. He's thinking more, and he has, apart from him and Tyson Fury, I'd say they have the best punch repertoires of heavyweights.
He's gained a lot of experience since losing to Anthony Joshua. He's matured a lot. I feel that you don't really get that sort of animosity, and he used to try and wind his opponents up and do silly things.
Yeah.
He seems to have put that behind him now and realise,
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, I think it's just...
maturity,
yeah, just the process of growing up and having the correct people around you and listening to people's advice. And I think he's done that, and he's realised that you can't keep getting warnings from the British Boxing Board of Control, and you can't keep upsetting people and conducting your business in that way. So the fact that he's growing up and he's maturing and he's becoming fitter, then I think he'll give a better account for himself. But let's not underestimate Joseph Parker, because Anthony Joshua shut out Parker. Joshua was too big, he was too tall, too much range. And if you're boxing and moving, and every time a guy gets near you, if the referee's going to break you up, I'm not being funny, but it's doing you a massive favour. That is, a lot of people complain about the referee, and the referee did sort of make the fight easier for Joshua. I'm not saying Joshua wouldn't have won if it was left in close, tight. Joshua might have banged him out and got the knockout against Joseph Parker. You never know, but don't underestimate Joseph Parker based on that performance against AJ.
Well, it's like betting favourite as well.
Dillian Whyte's got his hands full. For me to say Dillian Whyte will beat Joseph Parker easily, then I'd be lying, because I think this is a tough fight that could go either way, and I think you're right. I think Joseph Parker is a slight favourite in this one.
If you did have to pick a winner, Carl?
Well, based on what I've just said there, I think because Joseph Parker is favourite, I think Dillian Whyte's got a lot to prove to me. Now he's matured, and now this is his big step up. So he needs to perform. I think he can do it, right, but he's got to show me that he can do it and prove to me before I even think about a rematch with AJ.
Right, well, I think next week that Dillian Whyte will. I'm really backing my Brixton boy. I got Dillian Whyte winning this fight for the simple fact that I think somewhere down the line he's gonna get Joseph Parker because he wants it, and he really, really does want it. And if he does want what you're saying, Spence, and he does want it, and he proves to everybody he does it, and he's setting up a fight for AJ, and it's potentially exciting, because when the rematch with AJ was first announced and people was talking about it, people weren't sure. AJ's too good for Dillian Whyte. That's not going to happen. He's already banged him out, and it was early on in his career, which it was, but it was also early on in Dillian Whyte's career. Dillian Whyte was a bit wet behind the ears, a bit naive. They've both learnt so much, and that's what makes it so interesting. But we need a performance from Dillian Whyte against Parker. That's what we need to see. I really do believe we're going to get it.
Nick has tweeted in, who would you like Deontay Wilder to face now that Joshua has taken the Povetkin fight?
If we look at, you know what? It's kind of cliche, but Dillian Whyte is highly ranked in the WBC, right? Dillian Whyte, even though the Joshua fight's gone now, whatever's happened, I don't know what's happened, but it's happened, right? So then I think, rightfully so, then it should be Dillian Whyte, because you've got to think of like top contenders. Who are the other top contenders out there? You've got to think, other top contenders, Joseph Parker has gone Povetkin, he's going to be fighting Anthony Joshua.
So beat Louis Ortiz.
Exactly. Who is there for him? What, a rematch with Luis Ortiz? Maybe so, because Luis Ortiz was given a run, and many, like, Luis Ortiz, in my eyes, was winning that fight. So maybe a rematch with Luis Ortiz, but I mean, rumours are that Luis Ortiz is 65 years old, so by the time they have a rematch, he'll be 66.
Same result. He's getting old. He's going to... Deontay Wilder knows he can hurt him, so I just think that the rematch will be even. It wasn't easy, but it'll be an easier win for Deontay Wilder.
Yeah,
so it's difficult. Who do you put Deontay Wilder in with next? Because there's not so many great heavyweights like there was a couple of decades ago. There's no Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe. Them fighters are gone. So you've got to pick it carefully. You don't want You don't want Deontay Wilder to get beat either. I mean, I'm not saying there's anybody out there that can beat him other than AJ, obviously. But I don't know, who would you chuck him in with, who would you risk him with? I don't know. I think a tick-over fight, something to make him look good and feel good and to build that fight. I definitely think the fight needs to build. I'm not disappointed that the AJ Deontay Wilder fight isn't happening in September, October. I'm not disappointed.
Why
I just think it's a bit too soon. I think it needs to build now. I think we're going to see AJ now against Povetkin. We're going to see how he deals with him. And then
build?
I think next year,
But he's getting 90,000 at Wembley though, Carl.
I know he is, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You can't build AJ anymore. Yeah. But people in Britain don't know Deontay Wilder unless you're a boxing fan. So the crossover fan, which is AJ's got that crossover appeal, he's smashing it. They don't know who Deontay Wilder is, so maybe they get a look at him on Sky Sports, and then we build that for the big one next year. That's what makes sense to me. But I've got my promoter's head on.
You saw that video of Eddie Hearn walking around the streets of New York asking the public if they knew who Deontay Wilder was.
You could do that with Floyd Mayweather, and people wouldn't know who he was if they didn't follow boxing. America's a funny place like that. You can ask who Roy Jones Jr. is. If you follow basketball or baseball or whatever your sport is, in America, you don't know about any other sports. You could do it with Tiger Woods, and believe me or not, that will happen. So Eddie Hearn did a bit of a naughty test there. I was out of order, rubbishing Deontay Wilder, because he is known in the boxing.
It's a little bit, isn't it?
People don't know. It was a little bit. Yeah. We're still going to have a word of Eddie about it.
Yeah, I know. We'll back him up in the corner, don't worry, man. We'll bring Lee as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Following on from the result that happened at the weekend, Rocky from Stocky brought home the belt. Rob Oldfield has tweeted in, do we think we will see Rocky Fielding v the winner of Groves v Smith? First of all, Spencer, what did you think of the fight at the
Fantastic win. He set up beautifully in the round prior to the stoppage. And like I said last week, energy goes where energy flows. Nigel Travis, Jamie Moore, they have such a fantastic, energetic, vibrant camp. There's a lot of synergy in there, so it's just happening that you'll start to raise up in your camp. I remember when you were fighting back in the day in the class of 2000, and you had all your guys in there, you, Furwell, Walker, Eastman. Everybody was buzzing off everybody else, right? And then you rose to the top, and that's what's happening. Even guys you didn't expect to do anything, they started to rise as well, and it's exactly the same thing that's happening here. There's such a good camp. Well done to Rocky Fielding. It was a superb win, and I'll tell you the major thing is because you can see sometimes with Rocky Fielding he's a little bit reserved within himself. And it's nice to see a more confident Rocky Fielding go out and fight, because sometimes we think he suffers from nerves and stuff like that. No, forget that. I'll go to Germany, I'll show you what I can do, and he did it fantastically, and we have to tip our hat to him.
To answer your question, should we be going with Groves or Smith next? I don't think so. I'd like to see him get a bit more experience at that level and build there, because, he's only just become the WBA champion. And I think he needs to defend it. Pick a sensible opponent, get a defence, feel confident, get one back here in England, and then look towards that. Because you're talking about some of the best super middleweights in the world in George Groves and Callum Smith. We've got some of the top two contenders, if not the top. I mean, is Groves number one now in the world?
I reckon he would be now, especially. I would say that George Groves is number one.
So to jump straight in there with a number one fighter in that division, I think it's a bit of a steep task for Rocky Fielding. Just becoming a fresh, newly crowned WBA world champ. Let him defend it a couple of times, and then go for the big guns.
Obviously, Groves v Smith looking to be made late August, early September. Who do you have winning that fight, Carl?
I'm not sure what Groves is going to do with this injury, because the shoulder injury, I mean,
it's hard.
It's always a bad one. It's a real debilitating injury, especially for a boxer. The shoulders and the rotator cuff, anything round this area is bad news for boxers. And his shoulder was gone. You could see that. We saw it with the late Dean Francis, and his shoulder.
It never healed.
And he never looked the same again. I mean, he went through fights not throwing his right hand a couple of times, and it was unbelievable to see. But it's hard to answer the question who wins Groves, Callum Smith. I'd say Groves beats him on experience. He's a more experienced at world level. He's strong. He's toughened at world title distance, 12-round distance. Callum Smith's still a bit fresh, still a bit unsure of himself over the distance. Not saying Callum Smith can't do the business, but against a fully fresh Groves, injury-free, it's going to be tough for him. Against this George Groves that we've got now, following on from his shoulder injury, who knows? We don't know what Groves has got left. We just don't.
Do you agree with him?
I do. I really do agree, because we don't know what he's got left. And shoulder injuries, I've seen it happen with Danny Williams, but he's a heavyweight, so you got mass of body mass to fix things, especially when you're coming down to weight. When you're coming down to weight with an injury, then that's my reservation. But not only that, but forget about the injury.
And it's taken him a long time to get back from it as well.
Even a fully fit him, Callum Smith will give him trouble. Callum Smith is a very, very good boxer, and he's a thinking boxer as well. But George Groves has got a lot of experience. It's a great fight.
Colin Cooper's tweeted in, Carl, saying, do you wish the WBSS was around in your time instead of the Super Six?
Wouldn't make a difference. There's only 2 more fighters more than what you were in, and you got paid well by being in the Super Six, and you got all around the world. I don't think it makes a difference. I think it's the same thing, to tell you the honest truth. Isn't it the same thing? It's the same thing.
It's the same promoter as Calzaghe and his brother Nesse, and the concept's pretty much the same, but it's shortened, it's speed up. It's like a straight semi-final. Is it almost a straight semi-final? Quarter-final, semi-final, straight through to the fight. So it's happening a lot quicker, provided the injuries don't happen, which didn't happen with Groves. So to say, do I wish it was around? Well, it was. The Super Six pretty much is a dampened version, of the Super Series, which I think is a great format, and it's given us the fights we want to see.
And we'll give you the last word on this one, Carl. David has asked, if the fight had been made with Joe Calzaghe, what would have happened?
If the fight was made with Joe Calzaghe, what would have happened? Well, how long we got? Right, listen, so it's all ifs and buts. So which Calzaghe? The best possible Calzaghe, or the Calzaghe that's for me is beat 2 legends, but 2 old legends in Hopkins and Roy Jones. And let's not forget, he got floored in both of them fights. He struggled against a guy called Cabre Salim.
Cabre Salim, that's one of his worst performances.
I think he lost to Robin Reed. He won a split decision, but I thought he lost that. I mean, I'm not just trying to pick holes in Joe Calzaghe's record.
Yes, you are. Let's just call it what it is.
Mikel Kessler, he took the fight, he got one hand. I spoke to Kessler in the Super Six. He had an injection, 2 injections in his hand, an hour before the fight, but he was paid a bit more money to take the fight and whatever. It was all agreed. So I don't know. What the answer can be, because the fight never happened because Joe Calzaghe vacated his title rather than fight me. Who would have won? Obviously, I think I would have won. I think if it had gone to points, it would have been a tough one for me to win. But I feel I could have knocked him out. But you can pull down my record, but it's difficult to pull down my record because I've fought so many world champions, past and future, that's gone on to win world titles since I beat them. And I've always performed throughout my career. The fights I've lost on points in close fights against the best. Joe Calzaghe, I feel, struggled and lost to people that
in close fights.
What's that?
No disrespect. The Andre Ward wasn't close. The last 2 rounds were close because you put it on him. Like, you just woke up.
150 and 113 on 2 judges' scorecards.
Yeah, but
that's close.
It's close on scoring, but if you're subjectively watching the fight. No disrespect, Carl, because
Andre Ward,
he's still in shape.
Andre Ward retired undefeated. He's a top fighter. He's unbeaten since he was 12 years old. We're talking about Calzaghe.
Yeah.
What do you think about Calzaghe?
Well, I'm just going to be real, and like you're ripping Kawasaki's record, and it was only since the Jeff Lacey fight, and that was 2006. Prior to that, America was complaining about Joe Calzaghe, like, when is he going to fight somebody? Do you understand? So it's only from the Lacey fight where it was like they did a massive promotional drive with him. No disrespect to Calzaghe. Calzaghe is excellent, but it's very difficult to pick holes in his career. If we look at it, like, you fought back-to-back guys who were world champions or went on to become world champions. If we look at Joe Calzaghe's record, there's not many of those. It was like he was a WBO champion for many a year where he was fighting guys that we didn't know of. Evans Ashura, this African guy. It was like one of the most boringest fights I've ever seen in my life. No disrespect, but David Starry, that was dreadful. The Robert Reed fight, come on. So if we look at that, we can pick holes in it. But then when we're looking at legacy within itself, I would say that your legacy stands up better than Joe Calzaghe's.
I'd agree with you.
And that's what I'm saying. Legacy stands up better. But if they would have fought, when was his best performance? Your best performance. What would you class as your best performance?
I think Lucien Butte coming back after the Ward loss. I think that was me motivated and full of desire.
Right.
And aggression, and I think that kind of performance.
So we say that was your best performance, and we say that his best performance in 2006 when he fought Jeff Lacey in Joe Calzaghe. So those 2 there, and I think Jeff Lacey was a little bit overrated as well. So I'm saying those 2 there, you versus then that guy there, then I would maybe have tipped you to win that fight.
I'd agree, totally.
We got there
with
in
the
the
knowledge. So the knowledge has got me as a winner. Cheers, Spence.
We'll end on there while they're still in agreement. Thanks, Carl, for coming in. Thank you, Spencer. Tune in next week for more #Toe to Toe or check out iTunes for the podcast.